Mikee P back in the Money Media YouTube channel. Another Kentucky Derby prep this week. And we're at Turfway now for the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Grade 3. They're going for $777,000. And I think one of my favorite handicappers, especially for synthetics and for Turfway, is my buddy Jackson Muniz. So Jackson's here to analyze this race. Jackson, welcome to the YouTube channel of In the Money.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here and always happy to talk Turfway. I've been looking forward to this card for 3 or 4 months now. It looks really good. There's 13 races, pretty much 12 horses in every single race, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, huge card for Turfway on Saturday. 12:45 post. So they're racing during the day. A lot of times Turfway races at night, but we're going during the day on Saturday. And the 12th race is the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes. They're going to Mount & Eighth on that synthetic track. And Jackson, let's jump into the horses that race in the prep over the Turfway surface for this race, the Battaglia Memorial. That was on February 22nd. The winner was California Burrito, just holding off the favorite horse there, Baby Max. They were pretty much 1-2 around the racetrack and through the stretch. And ultimately, California Burrito proved the best. What's your thoughts on the prep? Can those horses step into this race and, continue that form?
Yeah, a little bit of mixed feelings on that one. That was a race I gave a big shout out to Baby Max. I thought he was going to be the winner in that spot. And just watching the race unfold, I mean, the pace was not very fast. He was right up on it, got a perfect trip in the clear, and he just didn't really have any excuses not to win that race. So I'm going to be against him in this spot. I do think California Burrito has a chance in here. He admittedly has some pretty good trips in his last 2 spots, but he's gotten the job done. He's done it the right way, and he continues to improve. So he's one I think you would want more than Baby Max out of that race. I'm actually going to look at a different horse, the third horse coming out of that race, and I think it's a little bit interesting. Drawn way towards the outside, I believe it's post number 10 for Maximum Promise, Kenny McPeek barn. This is a horse that I gave him a look last time. He took a lot of money that day, and the trip just didn't work out. He didn't break that great. He had a little bit of trouble, was way back there. And I mentioned the slow pace, and he's really the only one that made a big move on the turn. He was wide doing it, made a big move, kind of flattened out the final furlong, but that was only his second start off of a 6-month layoff. They put him in a big stakes race, 2 back, off of a 6-month layoff, and he ran perfectly fine in the Le Comp. So I think this is a horse they have pretty high hopes for. I love that Frankie Dettori's bit is hopping on board in this spot. We know how aggressive Frankie has been lately. And in this kind of field where I don't see a whole lot of speed, I think he's going to be very aggressive from that outside post and put him into the race this time.
Yeah, all these horses I do think have merits in this race. I mean, Maximum Promise, he was a horse that made a big move from off the pace, and racing that in the comp, which that was a sloppy track, goofy setup in that race. Now, closers did do well there, but again, like you mentioned, off the bench, sloppy track shows that this horse can handle the Turfway surface here. So definitely a chance. And of course, the horses that were 1-2, I mean, Baby Max, that one finished second. I thought he hung a little bit. Now you're getting blinkers. Kelsey Danner, that barn is incredibly sharp during this meet. I do think that all of her horses that she sends out are racing very well. And that one, it seems to be able to switch off, kind of can, stalk and make that move. Just needs to finish here. So I just don't know if that one can handle the distance. As far as California Burrito, I mean, the last 2 starts are very sharp. Been up close, wants to fight for it, plenty of speed. But I do think is going to face some speed pressure in here, namely from the horse that I'm interested in, and that's the 2 Charlie's to Blame. Now, this one ships in from Gulfstream, comes out of the Kitten's Joy. I thought the maiden win back on December 1st at Del Mar was fantastic. Really never looked a loser in that race. Shipped to Gulfstream, was able to wire that Kitten's Joy. That was a nice race. A couple nice horses in there. Test Score was in that race. This horse, I think, is interesting. The fact they're going onto the Triple Crown Trail. You get the synthetic track. Hernandez has ridden before and comes in to ride again. What's your thoughts on this one?
He's a big contender in this spot. I agree completely with everything you said. The race at Del Mar where he broke his maiden, that was actually a really strong field for the California contingent out there, and he destroyed those horses. And I can't recall Peter and chipping out to Florida very often. So the fact that he did that just shows how highly they think of this horse. He obviously ran really well in that spot, won. and they didn't take him back to California. They shipped him immediately to Kentucky, and this has been the target all along. So I think that's a really good sign as well. He's drawn really well on the inside. He hasn't won from off the pace, but he has shown he's capable of passing horses. So he's going to get a really good trip with that inside draw, either right on the lead or just behind and sit the pocket. So he has a very big shot in this race, I think.
Interesting you mentioned that, the fact that they won that race and then shipped directly here. A nice workout there on March 14th over this synthetic track. So definitely looks live and ready. I'm curious to see what price he is. We were talking off air. You thought maybe he would end up favored. I do think a lot of these horses, especially horses coming out of the prep, could get jumbled here. This could be a race where you have a favorite that's 3-1, between 3 and 4-1, but lots of horses jumbled in the middle.
Yeah, it's tough one, and just by default with the 12-horse field, the money's gonna be spread around in here. So I think no matter who you like, you're gonna get paid if you're correct.
Well, this video, like many of our Triple Crown prep videos here, is brought to you by twinspires.com tournaments. And I know Jackson very much frequents these twinspires.com tournaments. And another big qualifier this week that involves this day, the Louisiana Derby, Jeff Ruby, KDBC qualifier on March 22nd. That's an $800 buy-in contest. $400 goes to the bankroll, $400 prize pool. Prizes include that KDBC seat, which is a $5,000 seat, plus there's cash prizes. That KDBC is lining up to be a massive tournament there with a huge prize pool, $250,000 guaranteed. You have a chance for Derby tickets. You have a chance for NHC seats. Jackson, I know you're a huge fan of these Twin Spires contests.
Yeah, they're really cool. And the one this weekend is kind of interesting because for the past couple months, they've all been $500 on the Saturday one. This one is $800, so they're bumping up the entry fee a little bit. But that means there's less competition for those seats, and it is a fairgrounds and Turfway card contest. So there's going to be like 27, 28 races in this thing. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how it unfolds this Saturday.
Yeah, lots of big tournaments, and I know that you're involved with the qualifiers too. So throughout the week, you can jump into those qualifiers, try to get in these big contests on the weekend, secure that Kentucky Derby betting challenge seat at twinspires.com. Okay, so some other contenders here in this Jeff Ruby Stakes, some horses that are going to be bigger prices. I thought Flying Mohawk was an interesting contender. 2 straight wins, one back at Churchill on October 27th last year. Jumped into a 1X in the fairgrounds over the grass and was able to win there nicely from off the pace. This horse tries the synthetic track now, has all turf lines, is certainly bred for the grass, but a lot of times these horses can pop getting over the synthetic. Interesting horse to show up in here.
Yeah, I agree. He's one that was worth a look. I wasn't quite sure what to do with him, just not sure how his form is going to translate to the synthetic yet, but he's one to just is doing really well right now. And I like that he's done it his last 2 starts 2 different ways. The 2-back one, the maiden breaker. He was not that far behind. It was a big 12-horse field. He was sat third and just blew the doors off that field. And then last time he came from dead last and still won that race very easily. He beat States Rights, who's a pretty solid allowance horse at this stage. And it's a class test for sure, but I think he definitely deserves a shot and does not hurt that Ramos bothers to ride here. He's doing really well over the last couple of weeks.
Another mid-price contender I feel would be mid-price in here is the number 9 Poster. Now this is John Velazquez. Owen Harty has been on this upper level 2 to 3 year old trail here. Won the Remsen by a nose, getting a great ride from Pratt in that spot. Showed back up into Sam Davis, was against it from a pace standpoint. John Hancock and Owen Almighty went 1-2 around the racetrack there. He made up ground to be third. There's some question on distance for this horse. I do, however, think that he's a bit push button. I think this is an interesting spot for him, given the fact that he's raced well over the turf. So I think he's a contender, and he would be a use for me in multis.
Yeah, he's tough for me. The last one, the Sam F. Davis was a weird race where you're right. It was speed favoring, but they did go very, very fast. And I just felt like it was just one of those circumstances where no one was really just running from the back of the pack. He did, to be fair, but they went so fast up front. I just felt like if he was, this kind of quality, he would have gotten the job done that day. Now he is going back to the synthetic for the first time. He obviously has very good turf form, so maybe that's what he wanted to do all along. And getting to the Tapita is going to shake him up, and we're going to see a big effort out of him on Saturday.
One long shot you mentioned off air that you were interested in is the 12 here. He's not joking. Make your case, sir.
Yeah, I mean, the one time he's gone 2 turns on the synthetic, he ran off the screen. He got a really strong 84 buyer that day, and that came way back in November. It was early November, it was Breeders' Cup weekend. And, that number holds up pretty well to what these horses are running right now. And this is, 4 or 5 months later. You got to think that he's improved since then. If he has improved since then, and he's capable of running, upper 80s or even low 90s, and why can't he win this race at a big price? Obviously, the form lately hasn't been great, but that came on the dirt. So I think getting back to the synthetic is going to do him really well. And he's one I'll be using very prominently, I think, underneath at a big price, I would think.
A couple other long shots in here, Jackson. Giocoso, one that's been on the Triple Crown Trail, finished 12th in the Risen Star, but had a turf win last year in late November, and raced well at Ellis to break the maiden on the grass. Will the synthetic track, you think, improve this one's chances?
He's a tough one for me as well. I was surprised he was favored in the Bourbon over at Keeneland. I didn't realize that that was a pretty competitive field, and he took a lot of money that day. Didn't run great, but he came back to win on the turf, hit his next star. And it's a similar case here where you're hoping that the switch to the synthetic is what gets this guy to wake up. Now it's tough to know because he's been working at fairgrounds. There's no videos of how he's been working at Turfway because he hasn't been working at Turfway. And sometimes with the Desormeaux horses too, he and Lukas, they give him every chance to get the Derby, and you can't blame him for doing it. If you have a 3-year-old colt, you got to try to get to the Derby. So can't blame him for being in this spot. He's just not for me, I don't think.
Well, 100 points to the winner, Jackson. I know we talked several contenders in here. I know you have some leans, but ultimately, who are you picking here for this Jeff Ruby Stakes?
I think I'm going to go Maximum Promise. I think he's going to be the right kind of price in this spot in what looks like a pretty competitive field. I do think Charlie's to Blame is the one to beat, but this could change come Saturday. We don't have the morning lines yet. If Charlie's to Blame ends up being 5 or 6 to 1, I could very easily see myself switching over to him. But as of right now, I think the McPeek horse Maximum Promise is going to be a very square price. I think he's on the improve. I think he's going to get just a much better trip in this spot than he got last time. So I think he's the one for me.
Yeah, Charlie's to blame for me. And I know you and I have been on this horse and kind of following him through his last couple of races. I love the fact that they shipped to Kentucky to target this spot. I do think that this horse is ultra talented. I would love to see him sit back maybe off the pace and kind of get a trip and really, show his talent to definitely get an improvement here. So he shows up in that gate in Kentucky and get to the dirt. He's an interesting horse for me. He's a horse that I do think really, has some upside. So I like him quite a bit. And just as a long shot, I'm not sure what odds Poster's going to finish at. And I do think that maybe he has distance problems, but I do think he's another one with a lot of talent. And he could get overlooked in here. There's others that are certainly going to take money. I do think he was against it last time. So he'd be one that'd be interesting for me. So Jackson, always good to talk to you. Always appreciate your thoughts on Turfway. I know you're going to be involved Saturday for this Jeff Ruby and for this card.
Yeah, can't wait. I mean, I was texting my brother when the car came out. We were just like, our jaws dropped. We were so excited. Like, we cannot wait to get handicapping on this thing because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, lots of great coverage this week on In the Money Media. Check the audio side, check the YouTube channel, check the written work on inthemoneypodcast.com. All of us are going to be there giving our thoughts. We'll see you guys next time.